Hey guys, I just got an interesting bit of news. There's a neighbor, basically that house next to mine is a rental, and it's owned by a retired fireman, I believe. And he basically has been, he just gave me a call and was talking about how he's planning on subdividing his property, and my property is a little bigger than his, and I could get like 4 lots out of mine, and he could get 3 out of his, and together we could basically get 7 lots out of our property with access. And each of these lots, without any improvements except like sewer access, each of these lots would be worth $120,000, right? So I was like, and I currently own $140,000 on my property, and I enjoy living here, as you guys well know, but you know, as you go through your life, you know, especially as a MGTOW, your life is sort of a series of business decisions, as well as you know, just your regular life. You know, you have to, is it more business? Is it more? Does it make more financial sense to, for example, rent an apartment when for a couple $100 a month more you could, or about the same, you could buy yourself a condo and start accumulating a little bit of equity? That was the decision I made many years ago. Let's see, probably about 17 years ago or 18. Anyway, 19, geez, when did I, oh well, it's not important. I basically was in a situation where my apartment house kept raising my rent on me, and then I basically got a little more irritated every single time it would happen, and then I would, ooh man, that one is major ripe. And then I would just, Bush isn't ready to give that one up yet. It's not ready. But anyway, I was in a situation where I could either keep renting or purchase a place of my own and start accumulating a little bit of equity. So that's what I did. Moved just across the street from my old apartment house. I bought my condo, and then I paid it off in 11 years. As a MGTOW, you can afford to put a little extra cash into something that makes sense. So now that place is producing rental income. Good times, you know. But if I hadn't made that decision, I could have ended up still renting like 10 years later, and it's just something that's just not a good business decision. But the thing is, with a lot of people these days are saying, oh, the economy's going to crash, or oh, the whole Federal Reserve System is going to completely overturn, and accumulating equity is pointless, right? But I'm kind of not in agreement with that, because I mean, you guys know that I plan both for the failure of the economy and for its success, right? And you can't really bet on failure, you know, like all these serious gold bugs who put all their money into gold or silver or something, and then they expect that to pay off when the economy crashes. But But basically they've been waiting for that for like 14, 15 years now, or some of them even longer, and then they're stuck with an asset that hasn't really grown significantly. It was like $8 about 15 years ago, and then it's increased to like maybe 20 now, and that's hardly, I don't think that's even in keeping up with inflation. Now, don't get me wrong, I own some precious metals, and I think it's a very good idea, but it's not much really like an investment. It's more like an insurance policy, right? Just in case the conventional economy crashes, you would still have something that has value that you can spend, right? Like during the crash in Argentina, the collapse in Argentina, people could, if they happened to have like an ounce of silver, like one of those little coins, they could actually go to a farmer and purchase enough food to last them for a month, right? And the people who didn't have that capability, who were all in their dollars and their fiat banking system and all that stuff, they really suffered. The banks closed down, and then the currency was devalued, and people who had their money denominated into dollars, the banks and the government said, no, fuck you, we're not denominating it in dollars, we're putting it into pesos or whatever it is they use, and then we're going to devalue the shit out of it, basically stealing your money. But the people who had some precious metals, they didn't suffer, at least in that respect, with that massive devaluation, right? So basically, I think silver and gold is just more like an insurance policy against serious financial fiat currency collapse, that sort of thing. But planning only for the collapse of the economy is, I think that's just a bad idea. You've got to plan also for what happens if somehow they manage, the government, bankers and all that manage to prevent the whole big huge thing from just collapsing around our ears, right? What happens if the economy continues lumbering along sort of like it is right now? What plans have you made that will pay off in that situation, right? It's a real, life is not easy. life is unpredictable, but planning only for the collapse and not for a continuing economy is, I think, a bad idea. And a lot of MGTOW, my fellow MGTOW, I hear it all the time that they're saying, oh, the economy is going to collapse, so therefore I don't want to buy a house, or even if I buy a condo or a house, you never really own the property because it's taxed, right? But the thing is, if you are renting, you are paying the landlord, and then he's paying that tax anyway, and you've got to live somewhere. I'm a big fan of especially for MGTOWs, I'm a big fan of keeping, sharing housing, with people who have compatible personalities, and basically pulling in like a roommate here or there, and offsetting your mortgage a little bit, or your rent, if you happen to be renting a place with multiple rooms, but I think it's a great idea to plan what's going to happen if the economy doesn't collapse. So basically it's like you gotta almost like run your life like a business. What is it that at the end of every month will put you farther ahead? Will you be renting and not getting anything, or will you be purchasing a condo or a house or something and gaining a little bit of equity, and possibly renting out a room or two or three and offsetting your mortgage, and then basically turning around and every month you've paid off a little bit of that house, uh, and then and then you're farther ahead, you know. And as from a perspective of a guy who's almost 50, I at one time when I was a young man and I was like in the apartment house and everything, I appreciated the mobility. I could pull up stakes and go anywhere if I wanted to. But if you don't put down roots, you can't really gain a lot in financial power or assets, an asset base. So basically, time will go by, right? And you will be 50 years old eventually. And you got to plan for what you're going to have at that time. And I personally had zero trust in the stock market. You know, I didn't feel like buying any more Enron stock. And basically, so I decided instead to just pay extra on my mortgage. And then over a period of 11 years, I knocked my mortgage down to zero with that condo, with hardly even trying. So I kind of recommend, especially if you're renting, consider, do you need all that space? Can you have a roommate? Do you have a lot of stuff, or do you have very little stuff? And if that's the case, maybe you might want to consider just renting a room in somebody else's house and accumulating money to put down on your own place, like a condo or a small house in a mediocre neighborhood, and then get roommates and basically push money into that mortgage and pay it off, right? Now I'm in a situation where I owe less than the place is worth. You know, I probably have $40,000 in equity right now, probably because I bought it in a sort of a depressed time. But now I'm in a situation where I'm being offered, I haven't actually been offered, but the possibility exists of combining or selling this place for above market value, and then possibly having an extra maybe $100,000 in my pocket when I leave, right? And then I could put that $100K down on a property that has like a full acre instead of a half acre, with room that I could get the cars back into the backyard, and maybe even rent a backhoe and create water features and swale systems to sequester water and do all that major permaculture stuff. And this place would give me a good head start on that. I could conceivably get enough out of it that the house would be 3/4 paid off already when I move in. So, I really like living here, but you got to think of the future and think of where you'll be in 20 years, and decide what makes the best business sense. You know what? You got to kind of run your life a little bit like a business. So that's the situation I'm in. I'm strongly considering. I'm going to be investigating that possibility, and then I might end up relocating into a bigger place, bigger yard, maybe a little farther out. And then this place will have given me a nice financial launch into that new life. So that's what I'm considering. You know, you got to weigh all these pros and cons. You can't really plan for the economy to fail only. You have to kind of plan what would happen, if the economy keeps going, and if the economy keeps going, it would be wise for me to be farther ahead in the mortgage, and so that's what I'm considering doing. And then you have to look at yourself. I mean, a lot of these MGTOWs, my fellow MGTOWs they're like stuck renting a place for and they may have been there 5, 6, 7 years, and during that time they could have accumulated $30,000 in equity, and that's wealth that they would have the ability to use as a tool for their future. They could then turn around and maybe use that 30,000, or maybe if they did what I did and paid the place off, they could turn it over to a renter, have a constant regular stream, a small regular stream of rental income coming in that adds financial strength to the rest of their life. And so it's possible for me that I might even sell that condo and put that into the deal too. Sell this place, take the money, and buy my next place completely outright, and then I'd have a nice place on an acre-ish, and a house with a couple extra rooms, and room to get the cars and the vehicles in the backyard, and I could put in water features and everything, and things that produce fish and aquatic plants like what are those? Water chestnuts and things like that. And I could have very little or no mortgage. Oh man, it's awfully tempting, even though I really am attached to this place. I really got to consider the business end of it, The financial, it's a big pain in the ass to move, but the financial well-being I could get out of the deal would be something that would put me farther ahead 20 years from now than I would be if I stayed, So, if you're just renting an apartment, and you've been there 5 or 6 years, you really got to consider you're burning up lifespan. You only got a number of years in this life. And if you burn up lifespan putting all the money into your landlord's pocket, I think that's not as good for you as it would be if you could take advantage of some of these first-time home buyer programs, or if you've had military in the past, you could use a VA loan to get into a place. And then, even if you're only there 4 years or so, you would almost certainly be farther ahead than you would have been if you hadn't. Well, that's about that's about all. I'm faced with an interesting decision, and I'm going to be investigating the possibilities, and the time may come fairly soon, maybe this year, when I might have to relocate. And if it makes good business sense, even if it's painful, I'm going to have to do it. And that's one of the things that brought this video on, because there's a lot of guys out there who are pretty darn comfortable in their apartments or a rented house or whatever, but man, you're just throwing away money. It's not up to me as a MGTOW to tell you MGTOWs how to live your life, obviously, but it's something worth thinking about. You gotta think about things like this, because time will go by, and you will be 50 eventually if you're not already, and mortgages pay off. They do pay off eventually. If you pay a little extra every month, pretty soon, 10 years down the line, you're celebrating and like I was back in 2010, and paying off and you're paying off your mortgage. I don't know if I've shown you guys this. Let me just show you something. This is what they call a letter of fulfillment or something, and I copied it and framed it. See those post-its over there? But this is your home loan no longer has a balance due, and I did that the letter was in October 14th, 2010, and freedom! And for a couple years after that, all the way up to 2012, I was living in that condo with no mortgage, and I was basically living on 30% of my take-home pay every month. And that was friggin' awesome. And that's one of the reasons why I was able to save up enough down payment to purchase this place without selling the condo. And then I was able to keep the condo on as an asset that produces rental income, and it works out to about 11%, right? If I had just sold the place and then paid off that much money in my mortgage, right, that would only save me about 3.5%, which is about what I pay on interest, right? And whereas as it is just producing rental income, the profit over the taxes and condo fees and all that is about 11% of its yearly of its tax assessed value, right? So basically that is a better deal for me than paying off the equity on this place. So even if I do move, I might consider keeping that condo. So, I mean, all this stuff is a real business decision, and if you don't think and consider and weigh the pros and cons and seriously map out the way your life is going in business, because your life is a business as well as your life, if you don't, you're going to end up in a place where you don't want to be when you're an old fart like me. So, yeah, you got to plan for these things. You got to really have your eyes open in just the same way that that your open eyes allowed you to see the necessity of going MGTOW in the first place. So, well, I guess that's about it. I don't know what I'll call this video. Maybe to move or not to move, or to rent or to buy, or something like that. So, I guess I'll let you go while I mull over the possibilities of what I'm going to be doing with this. So, see ya.